Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Western Canalscape, 24th Street to 48th Street study meeting. We have an exciting presentation tonight and some great experts assembled to answer your questions. So I'd like to go over a couple of things. As always with our meetings, we do offer this meeting in Spanish if you'd like to call in and hear the meeting in Spanish. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our interpreter, Mr. Albert Granillo. Albert, can you introduce the line for us?
Thank you, Heather. Si usted desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor marque el 602-534-1000 y luego el número de la reunión, que es el 57172, y luego apriete el símbolo de número. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you. For a little quick tutorial on how to use your WebEx interface, your screen should look something like this. And the important button is the one that the diagonal arrow is pointing to. That opens the chat panel where you will find an opportunity to insert questions for the project team or comments. So we use the chat just to capture those comments for the project team to use later. Q&A, go ahead and insert your question there. We do have a lot of people on the call tonight. A lot of people signed up to speak or submitted questions. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our panelists. Actually, let me have them introduce themselves in the order their names appear. Please go ahead, Andy.
Hi, Andy Granger, Assistant Street Transportation Director.
Ruben Lawley, Deputy Street Transportation Director.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Langford, Traffic Engineering Supervisor.
Hello, I'm Brandy Rook. I'm a Civil Engineer too, and the City of Phoenix Project Manager.
Hello, I'm Alan Ferreira with Wilson & Company, the project consultant.
We were having difficulty getting Brian on, but I think I know how to add him in a minute here. But let's go ahead to the next slide. Let's have Andy kick us off here.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time tonight to be part of this meeting. This meeting is for the community to help us determine the amenities that we are trying to figure out we want to include in the Western Canalscape Phase 2 study from 24th Street to 48th Street, which is our border with the city of Tempe. For a little background, the city plans to begin construction on Phase 1 along the Western Canal from 4th Ave to 24th Street this fall. And this Phase 2 is a continuation of that project further to the east. This is a jointly funded project with the Salt River Project, who owns the canal system. Our Canalscape projects upgrade the south side of the canal bank for the Western Canal with a concrete path, add lighting and landscape, and upgrade crossings where the canal banks intersect with city streets. Improving the canal system with usable recreational trails is part of the city's climate action plan. The plan has a specific goal to create recreational trails along 90% of the city's canal banks by 2050. The Western Canalscape Phase 2 study is in the earliest phases, which means this is where the community input can really shape the concept and the potential features along the canal. We plan to have another public meeting later this fall, at which we will share how we used your input to make key conceptual decisions. We look forward tonight hearing from you on what you'd like to see along the Western Canal. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brandy, our project manager.
Thank you.
Randy, before we get started, I did move Brian over. We have a representative from our partner on this project, Salt River Project. Brian, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Yes, Brian Muchler, Salt River Project Field Consulting Services.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brandy. Sorry for the brief interruption.
This is our map of the Western Canalscape Phase 2 study. The Western Canal primarily runs east to west and is north of Baseline Road and south of Southern Avenue, as shown with the light blue line on the map. The Phase 2 study is between 24th Street and 48th Street, as shown with the orange line on the map. Our study is a continuation of Phase 1, Western Canalscape Phase 1, which runs between 4th Avenue and 24th Street. The Western Canalscape Phase 2 study will provide an additional recreation route that builds toward the T2050 Climate Action Plan goal. Also, the Phase 2 study will provide a safe route for people walking and biking and safe street crossings like shown in the example photo for Grand Canal Phase 1. Another great benefit of the study is it will provide connectivity to neighborhoods, jobs, schools, places of worship, and public transit. Tonight, we are proposing many study features, and one of them is for the concrete canal path. The before photo on the left is the existing Western Canal, while the after photo on the right is the example concrete canal path as constructed. This study for Phase 2 is in the conceptual phase in planning and pre-design to find out what's possible and to find out what the community would support to make decisions for study options we are proposing tonight. We are currently conducting pre-design, and the next step is to look for funding for design and construction. This study is for Phase 2 of the Western Canalscape series. Western Canalscape Phase 1 is at the end of final design and goes into construction later this year, and is between 4th Avenue and 24th Street, while Phase 2 extends improvements to 48th Street. Tonight, we are seeking your input on study options for Canalscape features. The study is a joint partnership between Salt River Project and City of Phoenix. We are following guidance from SRP in building canal paths. SRP uses a 20-foot minimum usable bank width as shown alongside the canal to maintain it. The area for recreation is the canal path shown that's within this 20-foot usable bank width, while lighting, landscaping, and amenities are located outside of the 20 feet so SRP can maintain access. The Phase 2 study is proposing features as a continuation of Phase 1. Many Canalscape features are being studied with examples shown in the photos. Features being studied include the canal path, pedestrian bridge, pedestrian lighting, landscaping and shade, public art, and amenities. These are the stages of development for our study, and each step of the way, we are collaborating with the community. As listed in bold, we are in the alternative options pre-design stage. The purpose of our engagement tonight is to introduce options to the community and present the options that will take the study to the next stage. We met with the community in May 2024 to get the word out about the study and receive feedback from the community on what they would like to see in the study area. At the same time, we conducted the first online community survey to get feedback from the community on their outlook for updates to the area. The responses from the survey helped to propose and present options tonight. By reaching out to the community, we found that most people were interested in personal recreation. We also asked the survey question, which of the following amenities would you like to see? The results of this survey helped to prioritize amenities along the recreation route. And the amenities that are listed are being studied along the recreation route and were designed as part of Western Canalscape Phase 1, except for the structural shade. Your input tonight will take the study to the next stage, and the community survey that is going live tonight will allow you to select options for features that include the amenities listed. We came up with two separate alternative options, option A and option B, for you to choose from in the community survey that is going live tonight. And of course, there is something from each option. If there is something from each option that you would like to see, there is room to add your comments in the community survey. The two separate concepts show options for different features, such as the location of the pedestrian bridge, the width of the canal path, and the quantity and location of features such as amenities. A pedestrian bridge will provide connectivity throughout the study area for canal users. The study only recommends one pedestrian bridge at this time. The community survey that is going live tonight will allow you to choose one bridge location from two options. Pedestrian bridge location option 1 is between 36th Street and 40th Street, while pedestrian bridge location option 2 is between 40th Street and the existing pedestrian bridge. This existing pedestrian bridge is a few streets to the east of location 2, and we will be improving the decking on this existing bridge as part of this study. Alternative options A and B provide the opportunity to choose your preferred canal path width. A width of up to 10 feet or up to 12 feet can be chosen. Western Canalscape Phase 1 has up to a 10-foot wide canal path, but we can change the look of Phase 2 with up to a 12-foot path. A 12-foot path, up to a 12-foot width path is an updated standard based on the active transportation plan and will provide more comfort and room to share space with all canal users. Keep in mind, the number of amenities will not be impacted with up to a 12-foot wide path. Alternative options A and B show different options for the amount and location of features that include seating, fitness and stretch stations, structural shade, bike racks, and pet waste stations. These features are located on pedestrian nodes, and an example of a pedestrian rest node is shown in the example photo from Grand Canalscape Phase 1. Option A will offer a balanced number of location of amenities for fitness stations and seating, while option B will offer twice the amount of seating and less the amount of fitness stations. The community survey provides the option of choosing between option A or B. And if there's something from each option that you like, you can leave your comments. There's room to leave your comments in the community survey. Please visit our study website to view these exhibits for option A and option B. The study timeline is shown in the graphic. We are planning to hold the second public meeting in fall 2025, and we are anticipating a completed project report by the end of year 2025. This completed study report will reflect your feedback from the survey and feedback today. The next step will be to look for funding for design and construction. Design and construction phases are reliant on SRP aesthetic funding that funds the majority of these improvements. As stated before, the study is in the conceptual phase in planning and pre-design to find out what's possible. Tonight, we are finding out what the community would support to make decisions for this study. Your feedback from tonight's meeting and the community survey will take the study to the next stage. Please visit our study website to take the online survey by May 18th. Also, we have a project hotline to gather comments and answer your questions about the study.
Thank you, Brandy. I would like to open it up to comments and take a look at some of the questions that were submitted by people who signed up in advance to speak. I do see that the chat is active, and we'll try to get to that as soon as we can. But let's see. First up, I'd like to call on, and I need to look for these people, so be patient with me for a second. I'm going to try and find Barbara P. Let's see if Barbara P. I don't have a Barbara P. that joined us. I did see Ryan, so let me unmute Ryan. And Ryan, you should be able to go ahead and speak.
Well, I guess Western would get us there.
Oh,
Now too.
no, I muted you guys.
Ryan?
Quick question for everyone. Are there any plans to include water fountains or water stations along any of the section of phase 2?
That is, yes, that is part of our planning effort. Yes, that is correct. We're studying that possibility.
All right, let me go ahead and unmute Melly, and after Melly, I will look for Victor. Melly? We can. Please go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. I wanted to know, I have a couple of questions. I wanted to know a little bit about the outreach efforts for this project. I had read somewhere that there was like a postcard sent out, but I never received anything. And I live just off 40th Street and Carter. So wondering what the outreach for this specific public meeting was like. I did see the little bulletin right off 40th Street and Carter, so like a yard sign, so that's how I found out about it. But just wanted to learn a little bit more about that before I get to my next question.
Hi, Millie. I can go ahead and take that. As part of our activities to prepare for one of these meetings, we posted, I believe, 9 vicinity signs throughout the project area. These are big 3-foot by 4-foot signs. I think you just referenced having seen one of those. And we also did circulate postcards. And I don't know where your postcard might have been left, but we had circulators hand walk them from door to door or mailbox to mailbox. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe it got caught wind on one of those windy days in the past 2 weeks, but they should have been out about 10, 15 days ago. So I apologize, but I'm super glad that you made it here tonight. And we're glad to have you. So if you have another question, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. I wanted to know as well, I was at the Canalscape over there in Maryville, off 51st. I think it went up to 67th or 59th. I don't remember. It was very beautiful. So great job for those that were also involved in that project. I'm wondering about the plans for light structure along where I live here, and if it's possible to do solar powered just to be more sustainable. And yeah, so wondering if those decisions have been made yet.
Project team? Brandy,
I can take that. So the Grand Canalscape project has LED lighting. It is from a permanent source. We can evaluate solar, but it's probably going to be not as reliable, and it's going to be more maintenance intensive. But that is something that we can take into consideration.
Awesome, thank you. Couple more questions. As far as public art, is there anything, are y'all collaborating with like Arts and Culture City of Phoenix Department for that? Or is there going to be like what's the plan for that? Because I've lived up near the other canal where there's a bunch of murals. I think it's between Central and like 3rd or 5th Avenues over there, and it's like beautiful. So I really want my neighbors and I to be able to enjoy something like that on this side of town as well.
Yeah, there is plans for artwork along the canal. Our arts group manages that, but there are going to be locations along the canals. We don't have details right now, but there will be art along the canal.
Thank you, Andy. I'm just going to take a couple of questions out of order because they were pre-submitted questions. They were answered in the presentation, but one was, will there be pet waste stations and will there be trash receptacles? And Brandy did mention that both of those are part of the study phase right now to include those. Next, I'd like to go ahead and unmute. I lost my place here. Clegg, let me unmute you and please go ahead. Clegg? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so maybe we can come back to Clegg, or please try using the chat so that we can answer your question or take your comment. And let me see if this next person is on here. I'm not seeing her. Greg V, I've unmuted you. Please go ahead. Greg? Right, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Let me refresh my screen real quick. I'm not seeing Clegg or Greg being able to hear them, so I will move on. I see a Chris. There's no last initial, but if you're Chris E, you're unmuted. Please go ahead. Chris, did you have a
I'm
question
Chris
for the
H.
project?
But I did have some questions that I sent in earlier. Some of them you've answered, so that was a wonderful presentation. But I guess one that I have open is the canal stops at the I-10, and there isn't really a safe way to cross the other side to Tempe. And this being a path to Tempe, is there any thought to either a bridge or a tunnel or a path that kind of cuts around to allow us to get to the other side of the highway?
Thank you. I'll turn that over to the project team.
You want me to answer that one, Brandy? I mean, as part of the Broadway curve, they're actually constructing a pedestrian bridge that goes over I-10. So this study phase is going to end at the Tempe city limits, and Tempe currently is looking to extend the Western Canal improvements to that new ped bridge that's under construction now.
Super. Thank you for that. Just looking for the next speakers, and let's see. I'm not seeing some of the people that signed up to speak. I'll double check for them in a second. But there was a question about whether we could instead construct bridges or underpasses at the street crossing. Has that option been explored, team?
Yes, we did evaluate that. It's very costly to provide a separation at the street crossings. What we will be installing is hawk signals, which are very safe crossings. They're signals similar to standard traffic signals that I'm sure most people have seen, but they're for pedestrians. So that's what we will be adding, which is a significant reduction in cost. If we had to provide grade separation at the street crossings, this project probably wouldn't be feasible to move forward with, unfortunately.
Thank you, Andy. I do see Larry M here. Larry M, let me unmute you, and please go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Larry, and I am an avid bike rider, and I ride all over the valley. I've ridden the Arizona Canal, the Grand Canal, even in all the canals in Mesa, going to Consolidated Canal. But the Western Canal is the only canal where I feel unsafe crossing major intersections, because there's no way for me to safely cross without dodging cars in traffic. So my question is, which was answered, if there was going to be tunnels or lights at these crossings, but at least some form for us to get across these intersections without us risking our lives. All of the other canals have tunnels, they have lights, they're paved, and they have all the amenities to make Phoenix a more bike-friendly city, a more pedestrian-friendly city. Which it is not, because Phoenix is so spread out. It feels like everybody has to have a car. But I applaud this effort to pave the Western Canal, because when I addressed this in my previously to Salt River projects, they answered with, "We have no interest in the paving the Western Canal or doing anything with the Western Canal." So I applaud this effort, and I think it would be a great boon to pedestrians and to bike riders also. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Jacob C submitted in the chat, isn't there already a pedestrian bridge between 32nd and 40th Street at the Raven Golf Course? From the image on screen, it looked closer to option A. Can we go back to that slide? Awesome, thank you. And would somebody from the project or consulting team care to take that on?
Sure. The Ravens one is probably more in line with 36th Street, which is almost off the page. So it's right at the bottom of that image. So that's the vehicle bridge to get to the golf course, and there's also a pedestrian option to cross the canal.
So it's not one of the two bridge locations
No,
that
it
we're
is
thinking
not.
of adding.
No, it would be between, it's basically, number one is basically between that crossing and 40th Street.
Thank you. And another submitted question, what are the current city regulations for the use of bike paths by electric bike riders? Currently, they're present on Tempe Western Canal sections and can be a nuisance or danger to walkers or runners. Would anybody like to take that on?
I believe, and I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that electric bikes aren't allowed along the canal system. However, when we open up the Grand Canal, you do see a lot of electric bikes there, and the enforcement is tough, but it's not allowed by code to ride along the canal, and that's an SRP requirement too.
Thank you, Andy. I do see that Greg V put something in the chat. He didn't hear an answer. Greg, we weren't able to hear your question, so I've just unmuted you again if you'd like to ask.
I want you to do it again. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my question is the accessibility for emergency vehicles. Right now, SRP, of course, has the lockable gates. So my question is, how will there be access for those, or will there not be a limited access that would limit not only emergency vehicles, but say mischievous people riding their motorcycles along the canal? It exceeds limited speeds and safety issues. So that's my concern, is how do you limit or minimize access, but also allow emergency access?
Thank you, sir.
I'll take that question. There is 24-hour access for the canal, or there will be once the Canalscape is constructed. As far as emergency access, they will be using the 10 or 12-foot concrete pathway to get access when they need it for emergency vehicles. But there is no restriction or plan restriction from SRP or the city for the canal.
Thank you, Andy. I did just put in the chat, which I hope everyone can see. Morgan Kennedy works for the city of Tempe, and Tempe is holding a preliminary design public meeting for Western Canal from 48th Street to I-10 on May 13th in person at a park. So you'll find information about that on the in the chat. And there is a question from Shirley. Is there any relation to the Phoenix Can Connector project and this project? And are there any updates on Phoenix Can? And it just so happens that we have some people on the call today who know about that program and can answer that question.
I'm guessing you are talking to me. I'm Marielle Brown. I'm the Active Transportation Principal Planner in the background of this meeting. But yes, Phoenix Can is coming along for year 1 and year 2 for both projects. We are in the process of vetting the proposed projects based off of community comments and community recommendations. We're still doing a little bit of internal vetting and working with the connectors as well to prioritize projects, and we are looking forward to bringing out recommendations and doing a final round of public engagement at some point in the next several months. So be on the lookout. We will have some news to share soon, and it's really exciting. And of course, as we're looking at it, we know this project's going on, and we're always looking for those connections.
Thanks, Marielle. One of the submitted questions is, will there be incentives to bring recreational businesses, restaurants, or bars to the canal? And a follow-up question from the same individual, can lights or artwork be added to the canal to improve safety and enjoyment? I think we touched on both the lighting and the artwork earlier, but if you can take that incentive question, that may be for Andy, for you to address. I don't want to put you on the spot though.
Yeah, we've got an economic development department that helps incentivize new businesses and new restaurants into the city. It would be their responsibility to try and encourage that new business. So I encourage anybody that's interested to reach out to them. But they're well aware of this project and the benefits of it, and hopefully the economic development that comes from it. And on the lighting question, if you've been along the Grand Canal, it is very well lit with the LED lights at night. And the same type of lighting system is planned for this portion of the Western Canal.
Looking again at a submitted question in the chat, what provisions, and I'm stumped on this, so hopefully somebody on the team can address this. What provisions are being included for the community's long-standing horse trail? Concrete sidewalks and such are not safe for riding our horses on. Will there be signs or paths specific to equestrian trail and safety etiquette?
I'm not sure we've anticipated that, but that's something that we can follow up on and look at where it's feasible to add signage for the equestrian trails in the vicinity of the project.
Sounds great. Another question, will the path be asphalt or concrete?
The plan is for the Canalscape project to be a 10 or a 12-foot concrete pathway. Very similar. It's the exact same concept that we've got and have constructed along the Grand Canal.
All right. Fred, please go ahead with your question or your comment. Fred, are you there? All right, let me try this again.
You guys hear me? Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I had a question. I am part of the people that did not receive your guys' postcard from 40th Street and Carter. And I was wondering, what safety measures would you guys provide to keep out like homeless that go into the communities that usually hang out right there on the canal, usually, and camp out?
Something I can do, I can drop into the chat. I'll let the project team address that, but I can drop into the chat the Phoenix Cares hotline number. That's a good number for people to have to report such things. And I just dropped that in the chat.
Yeah, I would just follow up on that, Heather, by saying anybody that contacts Phoenix Cares will get that notification, and we'll send out the appropriate personnel to address the situation.
Thank you, Andy. April is asking a clarifying question. Yes, it is only one side of the canal that will be paved. Her question is, can the other side, if it's still dirt, could it be designated for a horse trail? I know we have a representative, Mr. Muchler from SRP. Is that something that you're prepared to answer, Brian?
Yeah, no, the north side of the canal is operations for our personnel only. So we have a contractor who comes in and does maintenance on our roads and puts in a soil stabilizer, mainly for dust control. And so we don't use those, like I said, those canal roads for anything else but our personnel on the north bank.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Brian.
Can I follow up with that, Heather? Just to clarify that this is SRP property along the canal on both sides. So they've been gracious enough along their canals to partner with the city to allow the Canalscape project on one of the two sides. And like Brian said, the other side is used completely for the maintenance efforts, which they need to maintain that canal. But as we said earlier, this is a funding partnership between SRP and the city. And traditionally, SRP is funded through what they call an aesthetic fund that is allocated towards the city. They traditionally have funded at 80% or above of the entire project. And then city contributes approximately 20% of the project. So we're very grateful for our partnership with SRP on these projects.
And thank you, Andy. Another question came in about can we just keep it dust stabilizer and not pave it? We're talking about doing concrete, but that's also part of the accessibility factor because these canalscapes are fully ADA accessible. Can somebody from the project team add to that, please?
I could say that, you know, constructing a concrete canal path is part of our goal, but we're aiming for to continue the improvements from the Western Canalscape Phase 1 into Phase 2.
Thank you, Brandy. We had another question about what city department is responsible for the upkeep of the bus stop shade structures. The individual indicates that there are shade structures on Baseline at 24th that look good, but then some on 32nd Street and 40th Street that don't look so good. And a question about drip irrigation needing repair, but they don't specify a location. So if you're on the call and you can provide us more information about the drip irrigation point, please do. But the project team can probably provide a little bit more insight on the department responsible for bus shelters.
Yeah, the bus shelters are the responsibility of our city transit department, as well as probably Valley Metro is my guess. So they would be responsible for maintenance. Typically that's done through a third-party contractor, but we can follow up on that with that specific location.
Thank you, Andy. Another submitted question, will the project require any easements to properties that back up to the canal?
I don't know if you want to, I think right now, as we stated earlier, we're just in the study phase. Once we get into the final design, we'll identify any potential easements that are needed by adjacent properties. If we do, I think it would be fairly insignificant. We're not looking at taking any major, there won't be any major property takes for the project.
Thank you. Here's another question that was covered in the presentation, which again, we did record and we'll be posting it up on the project website soon. That information is in the chat as well. But wondering about the timeline for this project. Maybe we can flip back to the timeline. And a follow-up question from the same individual, where would the funds come from to support this renovation?
Typically we'd be looking, I think part of our goal would be to look for funding through SRP Aesthetics.
Yeah, so as Brandy stated in her presentation, we look to wrap up the study phase by the end of this calendar year. And then we'll look for, and the other thing that we're doing right now, as we stated, is we're going out to bid for the Western Canal Phase 1 project. And that will inform us on what the cost of that project is. We've got an engineer's estimate, so we think we're in the ballpark, but we never know until we open up bids. And that will inform us on what the amount of aesthetics funds. We've got a balance of aesthetics funds through SRP that will take a portion of, and then we'll relook at this project and see, based on that bid as well as the SRP fund balance, to see when this project could move forward into design and construction. But again, just to follow up on that, I guess we're hopeful it's within the next year or two that we can start that final design and construction phase.
And then a question about safety. Will the area be patrolled by safety officers? Again, we're in the study phase, so these are good questions to be asking from the community, but perhaps somebody can address, when we would have answers for things like that.
Heather, this is Brian from SRP. We do have a contract security that does patrol this area of the canal. So they do have a route, and they do patrol the north and the south bank of the canal.
Thank you very much, Brian. And let's see here. I'm diving into the Q&A section now. That's been active as well. And I'm just trying to see if we covered most of these. The section behind my house on the south side of the canal is fairly narrow between the fence and the canal. Will the new design reduce the size of my backyard?
I would say that we try and work within the limits of what we have from the property line to the canal. So we don't anticipate taking any property from backyards as part of this project. Along the Grand Canal, the Canalscape concrete path does narrow up in certain areas to take into consideration those properties that are closer to the canal than others.
And a similar question, will any homes be displaced with the construction of this project?
Yeah, there's no intent on taking any homes as part of this project. And I believe, Brandy, maybe you can verify, but this project, we believe, has more, I'll say, right-of-way or area for constructing this canalscape than we even had on the Grand Canal project. So I believe that we don't have many concerns on even narrowing the path along this section. Is that correct?
Yeah. Is that what you, Alan? Alan's on the call.
Yeah, no, that's the intent. I mean, there is some ample right of way there existing with SRP.
One of the submitted questions was about lighting, saying that they wanted to clarify that lighting would be part of both projects, the 4th Avenue to 24th Street Phase 1, and then again from 24th Street to 48th Street in Phase 2.
Yes, that's correct.
And then a question about whether fencing will be updated. Very similar to what we saw on Grand Canalscape Phase 3. There are some properties that are fenced with chain link. And this individual, Ryan, has noted that there is a lot of chain link fencing that lines much of the canal pathway on the south side. And the question is, will that fencing be updated by the project?
During the study phase, that would more likely be addressed during final design.
I will say that that's not an anticipated part of the scope of work for the construction. That fencing is typically the property owners, and that would be the responsibility of the property owner to improve that. So in most cases, we don't improve the fencing or the perimeter wall or fencing that's along the property line adjacent to the canal.
We had a question about the lighting. Will it be directed in such a way as to avoid shining in our backyards? And I think if somebody can kind of differentiate what they see as a street light versus kind of the pedestrian scale lighting that we would be installing with a Canalscape project, probably the best way is to go check out one of the existing Canalscape projects. But if the project team can take a look at that.
Yeah, the LED lighting, it's got the capability and we utilize it to direct the lighting along the canal path. So there is minimal intrusion into backyards from the lighting. And it is pedestrian lighting. It's not your typical street lights. It's made specifically to direct that light towards the canal path.
And the presenter just used the laser beam option to highlight the kind of lighting. So cool job on that. And then let's see here. There was mention of motorized vehicles not being allowed, but the individual is asking whether motorized mobility aids like power chairs and scooters are included in that restriction or not. And the intent for this project is to be fully ADA accessible.
I think maybe that's a question we can follow up with as follow up to this public meeting as far as what is and isn't allowed along the path.
And some questions about whether cooling pavement or concrete can be used to offset the heat that concrete outputs. Will shade structures be built? And will there be seating underneath the shade locations?
I think that's one of the, as we stated, that's one of the amenities that we're evaluating, and we're looking for the community to provide feedback on that. So if that's of a high interest, then that's something that we'll look to include in the scope of the final design.
And
as far as the concrete path, we have not used any type of a cooling surface treatment along any of the other sections, but that is something that we can evaluate. As some may know, we've got a Cool Pave pilot project across the city for local streets that helps to cool down the asphalt pavement along those sections. And it's in a test case study right now, but that potentially could be something that we could look at here, but that's something that we'd have to further evaluate.
And I think we're coming up on the end and we're coming up on the top of the hour here. But one of the most recent questions is, given that this is part of the city's environmental initiative, are there any concerns for temperatures by adding so much concrete? And are there plans to offset this with trees, vegetation, or shade structures?
The study is definitely implementing shade wherever possible. And I presume, it would be to, eliminate any concerns, but I don't know the full answer to that question.
Well, perhaps that's something that we can come back to in the fall when we do our next public engagement, and maybe have a little bit more clarity on that. And I think with that, we've covered most of the questions that were submitted that weren't repetitious. I will give one last shout out to members of the community. If I was not able to unmute you and you still have a question, please go ahead and let me know in the chat or the Q&A. Again, the study website is Phoenix.gov/streets/Western Canal 2. We capitalize it just because we think it makes it easier to read, but capital or lowercase, it's a website. So we invite you to please go to the website. There's a survey there. It'll take you just a few minutes to answer the survey. And again, as Andy said at the outset, being in the study phase is really where the public input and the community's input and what they'd like to see in their community can be incorporated most easily. So we definitely want to hear from the community. We recorded this. We'll be posting it on the project website. Please tell your friends and neighbors to participate as well. And we genuinely appreciate the time you've shared with us tonight and the excellent questions you have submitted. The survey is on the website now. And again, we invite you to please go there and complete it. I'll be updating the website in a second just to take the registration link off. But yes, we invite you to go ahead and complete the survey. Brandy, Marielle, Andy, Brian, the whole project team, appreciate your contributions as well. And if there are any closing remarks you would like to make, Andy, I give you an option to do that before we finish out.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for attending tonight and for all the thoughtful questions. Like Heather said, we'll take this all into consideration. We encourage your input. If you weren't able to ask questions during the presentation, please ask them online or through the hotline. And we look forward to getting this project moving in the right direction and hopefully in construction within the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you and have a good night, everyone.
Good night.